Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 6th meeting of the Joint Select Committee on Local Authorities, Service Commissions, and Statutory Authorities, including the Tobago House of Assembly. As you know, there are several parliamentary committees. We are one of them, which is mandated by Section 66A of the Constitution and the standing orders of the Houses, which are empowered to investigate, inquire into, report on all matters relating to the mandate, management, activities, administration, and operations of the assigned ministries, departments, or bodies, including the THA. So this hearing here is to inform people that have us here on the business of how it was conducted, how it's being conducted. I guess we are all here, whether members of the public or us here as members of this committee, on one common purpose, which is for the development and the prosperity and the further advancement of our society. In this instance, the focus is on Tobago, being administered by the Tobago House of Assembly. So I'd like to welcome you. I'd like you to know that I think it is necessary that this is not an inquisition, so no one needs to be anxious or fearful of any prosecution, because the witnesses here are all protected and enjoy the same protection as members of the committee, which is parliamentary privilege as far as the committee is concerned, as far as we sit as a precinct of parliament. However, having said that, if you were to say anything outside of this that may be contentious, defamatory in any way, you are on your own, okay? So during the presence here, we expect you to be honest, to be truthful, and also be respectful to other person's rights, okay? Outside of that, you enjoy the same privileges we do. I do not know if all witnesses who are here may also be, will have been briefed that you are entitled to have advisors, but they are not be able to participate directly, engaging us in any of our concerns and our questions, but they can advise you on the side, so to speak, okay? My name is Hugh Russell Ian Roach. I'm the chairman of this Joint Select Committee, one I'm privileged to chair, which is one of the many committees I told you that are mandated by Parliament to inquire into the affairs. Other members of the committee, I would like them to introduce themselves, starting with the Vice Chair, which is...
Good morning, everyone. Ramona Ramdial, Vice Chair.
Good morning, everyone. Jennifer Witties Primus, member of this committee.
Good morning, Chairman, members, Parliament, staff, and THA, Darrell Smith, member. And again, I just want to thank the Parliament for pulling this together on this historic moment, and the warm welcome we've had so far from the THA and the people who met us at the airport. So thank you all.
Morning, everyone. Daniel Solomon, committee member, Senator.
Morning, everyone. Nigel Freitas, member.
I will now invite the members, the witnesses, to introduce themselves to the committee and to the public.
Ray Sang, the Chief Administrator, and I also want to take this opportunity to thank Parliament for having the session in Tobago. It truly brings the government closer to the people of Tobago. I think it's a historic occasion. I can't recall in my memory of Parliament actually meeting in Tobago. Normally we are invited down to the parliamentary building. So I really want to thank the Parliament for having the session here and giving Tobagonians an opportunity to participate in this kind of exchange. Thanks.
Thank you. The other members?
Esther Pilgrim-Soames, Director of Finance.
Sorry, you need to repeat.
Jacqueline Job, Administrator of Finance.
Good morning, everyone. Petal Ann Roberts, Senior Financial Analyst.
Good morning. My name is Shelley Trim, Budget Analyst.
Okay, that's the thing we take it for now, right? Yes. Thank you very much. As you all have noticed, that this is certainly the first Joint Select Committee of Parliament being held in Tobago, and certainly since the commencement of the 11th Parliament. And we do agree with what Mr. Ray Sandy has just said. It's an effort on our part as members of Parliament to bring Parliament to the people, right? So it's not just Parliament by the people, but for the people, but to have that closer synergy with you all, that we can do a better job in serving you, because we are all your servants. Okay, thank you. I will now invite no, sorry, before I go on, yeah, thanks. Let me inform the audience that they can send comments, not questions. They can send comments via email at pal101@ttparliament.org, or on Facebook page at facebook.com/ttparliament, or on Twitter at ttparliament. Okay, so the committee will facilitate comments, not questions, comments. Okay. The sequence in which, because of the number of witnesses we have before us this morning, we have 19 witnesses basically that have agreed to come before us, which we appreciate very much. But we will take them in the sequence. We deal with finances. Okay. Tourism and transport will be taken together, and then lastly we will have the agriculture sector. Okay. So again, welcome to the Tobago House of Assembly. We are pleased to have you, and we hope that this will be a fruitful exercise for all concerned. All right. The objective of this inquiry is to, first of all, is to assess the management of the allocation, the financial allocation to the Tobago House of Assembly. To assess as well the sufficiency of the budget allocation and how it is being dispersed or being used or challenged to be implemented thus far. I will invite Mr. Ray Sandy to make a short opening comment before we proceed with questioning. We will ask you questions, and we will expect you to answer the questions that are asked through the chair. Okay, Mr. Ray Sandy.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, we have put a team together of the senior public officers in the Tobago House of Assembly to respond to any of the questions that you might have. The team put together that surrounds me here are the senior officers in the Division of Finance and Enterprise Development. And we are quite ready, willing, and able to respond to any of the questions that you might have. You might be aware that the Tobago House of Assembly had a budget cycle where we present our estimates of expenditure in June of the year preceding the year of the expenditure. So in June of this year, the TH will be presenting its budget. Then we'll have the parliamentary budget being done sometime before the beginning of the financial year, usually sometime in September. And after the allocations are known, after the parliamentary allocations are known, then the Tobago House of Assembly will do a revised budget, so to speak, because our budget of June would basically be the ideal kind of budget. I wouldn't want to call it a wish list, but it would be the ideal kind of budget that we think is suitable for Tobago. And we generally are not allocated the amount of money that we would have requested. So in September, we do a revised budget based on the parliamentary allocations, and we prioritize our projects based on the parliamentary allocations that are assigned to the Tobago House of Assembly. So our programs and projects are then decided after the national budget is read, and then we go to the Executive Council with a revised program, and that's approved, and that becomes the program of work for the Tobago House of Assembly for the current year. So I just want to put that on record.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sandy. Before we actually embark upon the exchange between ourselves and you, let me just acknowledge that we did receive from the THA your written submissions on the 22nd of April 2016, and we thank you for it. We also received submissions from Ms. Chrislyn Moore on behalf of the Tobago Forwards. We received this on April 26th of this month, and we also thank her for it. We also received from the Tobago House and Tourism, Tobago Hotel and Tourism Association on the 26th of April, comments as well, and we thank them for it. We will now invite Mr. Smith to ask you.
Thank you, Chairman. And first of all, let me thank all those who submitted questions and information. I think the THA information that we gathered, we had time to go through it and ventilate it, was very comprehensive. So thanks for that information. But based on the information we received from your submission, you indicated the projected monthly release is less than 1/3 of the amount requested of the Ministry of Finance by the THA. Based on that, can you indicate the value of the monthly releases received from the Ministry of Finance for each of the first 3 months of the quarter of the 2016, first 3 months of this first quarter? And also, given the considerable reduction in the rate at which funds are being released by central government, what are the priority areas to which funds will be assigned, or which areas, unfortunately, we may have to pull back or deprive at this time?
Members, the amount requested for the third quarter was $486,457,600. Right? A third of that would have been $162,152,533.33. The amount received was $147,076,514, which is 30.23%. Right? The difference is $15,076,019.33. Right? Good.
The part is, as I said, with the slow rate with regards to how the funding is coming, what are you going to prioritize with regards to that, and what you're maybe slowing down within that with regards to how you're getting releases?
The amount that is presented to us, seeing that it will affect our planning, we will have to look at Executive Council to give us some directive. But it will, on the recurrent side, it will affect how we pay our suppliers, it will affect our commitments, and how we move forward. Because we are looking at, the Act is saying that Section 47 of the Act, if I may quote here, says money is appropriated by Parliament for the service of the financial year of the Assembly shall be credited to the fund in quarterly releases in advance and block. And now we are getting the money on a monthly basis. So we usually will plan quarterly. So it will affect our planning, and we'll have to look at executive for directive.
Okay. Ramona, anybody? Yeah. Mr. De Freitas?
Good morning again, members.
Okay.
In your submission, you indicated that the Tobago House of Assembly has not determined any new or possible streams of revenue. The question is revenue generation an immediate priority for the THA at this time? And what are some of the potential avenues that the THA will be exploring to generate additional revenue outside of tourism?
Yes, member. The Tobago House of Assembly certainly has started looking at areas where revenue or additional revenue can be generated. And we are taking a very serious look at the Studley Park Quarry as a major revenue earner. And in terms of, we're also trying our best to see how we can reduce expenditure in areas where expenditure is not absolutely necessary. So we have looked at areas where we can reduce on expenditure. We also, you said outside of the tourism sector in terms of revenue generation. The agricultural sector, as you would hear a little bit later on when the people from agriculture face the committee, They are looking at areas in which agriculture production can be substantially increased, thereby reducing not only increasing revenue, but also reducing the outflow of foreign exchange through the importation of foodstuff and so on. But in a general sense, we are looking at areas where revenue can be increased.
But, sorry, yeah. Mr. Sandy, if I can ask, could you give any more details of the specific areas? And as well, what about sport as a industry?
Yes,
As a financial, as a financial potential of delivering, some of what you are looking for, foreign currency.
Yes, we have discussed, and you're right, we have discussed the whole area of sports tourism as a foreign exchange earner, and sport as an industry in a general kind of sense. The major sporting facilities on the island are at the Dwight York Stadium. We have tennis courts. We are looking at the construction of an indoor sports facility. All of those are done in the context of trying to encourage foreign teams domiciling here during their off-season so they can practice and so on, given the favorable weather conditions that we'd have. And also to encourage more sporting activity generally, so that not only the residents of Tobago would benefit from increased activity, but also we'd be able to generate some income from teams visiting the island for particular sporting activities and so on. But sport is just one of the areas. We are looking at it all throughout the entire gamut of activities that takes place in Tobago, and sport is certainly one of those areas that we have started taking a look at.
So do you have a written sports policy where that is concerned?
Not that I'm aware of.
But is there intention of formulating a policy that everybody be on the same page, basically?
Yes, there is, and there might very well be a draft policy. But I know that we have started discussion on it, but I can't say that exactly where it's at right now. But I know we have started discussions on it.
Ms. Ramdia.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Sandy, can you, for accountability and transparency purposes, and as to how the taxpayer dollars are spent, can you explain why there's been no Auditor General's report of THA accounts from 2007 to present time?
No, I cannot explain why there's no Auditor General report. What I can tell you is that the Tobago House of Assembly has submitted its financial statements up to the year 2013 to the Auditor General. And it's up to the Auditor General to find the staff to do the audits. The last audit which we defended at the Public Accounts Committee was of the year 2007. So the Auditor General has the financial statements from the THA up to 2013. 2014 will be available in 2 weeks' time, and 2015 in about 6 weeks' time. So we are very current as far as our submissions to the Auditor General. It's up to the Auditor General to do the audits.
Yeah. Anybody can answer this question, not necessarily you, Mr. Sandy. I don't want to keep you on the hot seat, so to speak, right? But I'm looking at the financial resources. Between 2012, there's a current trend. There's a consistent trend from 2020 to 2015 as actual, the allocations, right, given to the THA. And there's been a constant increase. You went from 2012, you went from 1.65 billion. 2013, you went up 1.98 billion. 2014, went to 2.01 billion. 2015, it went to 2.11 billion. And it's an estimate projection for 2016 to 2.772 billion. My question is, this is significant increases over the year constantly, right? Is there any way of assessing whether Tobago is better off as a people with this type of increase in terms of allocation, generally speaking, and or any areas in particular where you can see the justification for this increase in allocations and increase in development, increase in whatever you have in terms of bettering the lives of Tobagonians?
Okay, Chair, always said it's not directed to me, but I'll take this one also.
Okay.
As you may be aware, the allocations to the Tobago House of Assembly are determined by an order of the Dispute Resolution Commission. where the Assembly should receive between, I believe it's 4.03 and 6.9% of the national budget.
Right.
Invariably, we get the 4.03%. So any increases generally are because they are increases in the national budget, and we benefit from that increase.
Right.
So if the national budget increases, the 4.03% will increase. Not the percent will increase, but the amount that represents 4.03% will increase. So generally, once there's an increase in the national budget, the allocation for the Tobago House of Assembly will increase. And I will also indicate that any study done will show that the development in Tobago lags behind national development. And we have always made the argument in Tobago that we should be given much more than just the minimum that the Dispute Resolution Commission prescribes, because we are basically playing catch-up in Tobago. And to answer your question, yes, any increase we get will redound to the benefit of the average citizen of resident in Tobago. And Tobago is challenged by a number of factors that contribute to our slow pace of development, not the least being the one, brain drain, a number of what I want to say is that sometimes we don't have the human resource capital in Tobago to prosecute the kind of work that we want done in Tobago, and often have to import it. We have challenges in terms of the higher cost of living in Tobago, the cost of materials and so on coming to Tobago. And generally, the quality of life in Tobago is reasonable, but it can be improved. And certainly, any inputs from the Tobago House of Assembly, meaning inputs from the government of Trinidad and Tobago, will lead to that, outcome. There's also a factor in Tobago, in my view, that treats with the issue of development of Tobago, and it has to do with the private sector in Tobago. The private sector in Tobago is in my view, a little bit risk averse. One reason being that the market in Tobago, the population of Tobago is about 60,000. Yeah. The market in Tobago is a relatively small market, and therefore you don't have the kind of business turnover that you might get, for example, on the mainland Trinidad, if I may put it that way. So you find that businesses in Tobago, to make a profit, generally has to have a slightly higher markup if they are to make a reasonable profit than if they were doing business in Trinidad, simply because of the size of the market. I mean, I'm not an economist, but generally the demand and supply would kind of dictate that. So you find that the cost of living in Tobago is, in some cases, considerably higher than the cost of living in Trinidad, and that eats up quite a bit of the allocations. When I say eats up a bit of the allocation, not that the THA spends on the cost of living, but generally the people who work for the THA have to expend more of their disposable income on basic necessities and so on, and that speaks to some issues of the quality of life and so on in Tobago.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ramona.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just a follow-up question, Mr. Sandy, to my first question. You mentioned that the statements were submitted to the Auditor General's office. To my knowledge, publicly, the Auditor General's office has stated that they encountered some challenges in receiving these statements. Can you tell me when these statements were submitted to the Auditor General's office?
I can't say when exactly they were submitted, but I know for a fact that the year 2013 was submitted. That's the last year we submitted, and 2014, as we promised in Parliament, would be ready in about 2 weeks' time, and 2015 would be ready in about a month's time again. The challenges that the Auditor General has identified in a number of cases is that sometimes when they're doing their audits, documents sometimes are not available for audit purposes. And we have a particular challenge here, which we have admitted to, in the sense that sometimes the Auditor General will ask for certain documents, and we are unable to provide them with those documents at the time when they ask for those documents. Bearing in mind that we are dealing now with an audit of the year 2008. The last audit was done for the year 2007. We are now in 2016. I mean, most of us who sit around this table here probably were not even employed with the THA in 2006 and 2007. We are not saying that the documents are not available. We are just saying sometimes it's very difficult to retrieve them. And more often than not, we retrieve those documents after the deadline has passed for submission to the Auditor General. And in some of the Auditor General statements, comments were made that they could not see certain documents, so therefore they could not form an opinion on the audit of the Tobago House of Assembly. And we have complained to the Auditor General that we find that rather unfair, because sometimes they might see 95% of the documents, But the impression is given that all the documents were not seen, and therefore certain things could not be accounted for. We have made numerous complaints to the Auditor General about this. But we do admit that we do have a challenge sometimes with presenting documents at the time when the Auditor General needs to see them.
Thank you very much for that explanation. You mentioned that the statements for 2013, 2014 were submitted and about to be submitted for 2014. What about the years preceding that, 2007 to 2012? What about those statements going into the Auditor General's office?
Those statements have been submitted to the Auditor General. As I said, the Auditor General indicates that, and I'm not here to speak for the Auditor General, they might be short-staffed and so on. We have appealed to the Auditor General to do a omnibus kind of audit of the THA accounts for the years 2006 to 2012 or 13, so that we can become current. And it's something I believe the Auditor General is considering. But as far as THA's submission of those documents are with the Auditor General. So it's no fault of the THA that they are now auditing the year 2007.
Sorry, thank you very much, Mr. Sandy, again. Just one more question from me. We had here a concern concerning how much money the THA would have spent on eradicating the seaweed problem you all had. And also, do you all maintain a disaster fund? And if so, what is the amount? Within the fact that we're waiting soon into the hurricane season. Too far away. Well, are we waiting for the hurricane season now?
Eventually, yes.
Chair, what we are faced with is the THA had the 1990 Act, and that was followed by the 1980 Act, and that was followed by the 1990 rules. And then we had the 1996 Act that repealed the 1980 Act.
Yeah.
So now we have the 1990 rules and the 1996 Act. And the 1996 Act provides for the use of the 1990 rules with modification, so too. So the 1996 Act talks to capital expenditure, the 1996 Act talks to capital expenditure, the 1990 rules talks to contingency, and the contingency is from the unspent. So the Executive Council directs how the contingency is used. So there is provision for contingency within the THA. Did I answer your question?
Not really, you know. What I was asking specifically is how the THA has dealt with the seaweed problem. How much money was expended on it? Yeah, the sargassum.
Well, the figures for the expenditure on the seaweed, Chair, we do not have that figure right now, but I can tell you that there is a plan, a sargassum plan, presently trying to treat, because sargassum is here again.
It's here again.
It is here again.
Right.
And they are trying to treat with it. So there is something in trail, but the figures that we spent last fiscal is not available at this time, but can be provided at a later time.
We will appreciate you providing it to us. Okay. And then the other question I'd ask is there a disaster fund, really and truly, a disaster relief fund?
No. The contingency is what we use, but not a particular disaster fund, sir.
A more general type of...
Right. Unforeseen circumstances is what the rules, hence the reason I gave the history. Unforeseen circumstances, money comes out of the contingency fund. So disaster, unforeseen, will come out of the contingency fund. Right.
Yeah. I know have they been before the PAC already? I know you all have been before the PAC and the PAAC, yeah?
No, just PAC.
Or the PAC, and probably whose remit is more an in-depth financial inquiry into you all. Right? So we thank you for your contributions here this morning. If there is anything in closing, Mr. Sandy would like to say, leave with us and the public, we'll appreciate. Sorry, one moment.
Through the chair, you mentioned Studley Park quarries. Could you tell us a little bit why it is that you chose that as a revenue stream option?
Because we think that the quarry is now underperforming. And the studies have shown that there's great potential as a revenue earner at the Studley Park Quarry. And not only as a revenue earner, but also the foreign exchange earner, in the sense that we do import quite a bit of quarrying material into Trinidad and Tobago. And we feel that this Stanley Park quarry can satisfy a large part of that need. So therefore, it will stem the outflow of foreign exchange to purchase aggregate material from outside of Trinidad and Tobago. We have some challenges, and we are treating with them now. One of the challenges being having an industrial port in Tobago to treat with the movement of barges of materials and so on. And for your information, when Atlantic LNG was being built in Point Fortin, quite a bit of that aggregate came from the Stanley Park quarry. Barges left Tobago on a weekly basis with material to construct that plant. And the studies have shown that the resources at the quarry are not inexhaustible, but we have quite a bit of resources there. And if it's properly utilized, it can be a serious revenue earner for Trinidad and Tobago.
I appreciate that. I want to ask you about earning foreign exchange in particular. Are there any projects that the THA is considering that could assist in the foreign exchange earning, apart from the tourism sector, which is an obvious one?
Not that I can point out to a particular project, but we can earn foreign exchange in two basic ways. One is to reduce the foreign exchange outflow, in a sense, and also as tourism would do, to bring fresh foreign exchange in. And when the agriculture sector comes on at the table here, they can perhaps discuss with you the thing that we are doing to improve agricultural production that will reduce the foreign exchange outflow as far as purchasing of food and so on is concerned.
Through the chair, the Auditor General's report, I understand, for 2007, is that the last Auditor General's report?
That is the last one.
Can you tell us if you are happy with that report that you received? And if not, what improvements you plan to make in the THA in regards to that report?
No, we are not happy with the report, because the report largely says that they couldn't form an opinion on the audit of the THA, given that quite a few documents were not presented for audit scrutiny at the time when it was requested. And so we are not happy with that at all. And the Auditor General would have pointed out a few areas also where we can improve on our operations here, and we have taken those on board. The challenge, though, is that the Auditor General started making those comments from the audit of, I believe, 2005 or 2006. But those comments were made in the year 2012 and 2013. So you'll find that in the continuing audit of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, we'll have the same negative reports, because they were only brought to our attention in 2012 after the fact, if you understand what I mean. The 2006 audit was brought to our attention by the Auditor General in 2012. So it's only from 2012 that we were able to address some of the concerns that the Auditor General had. So between 2006 and 2012, you'll have this recurring problem that the Auditor General will continue to report on, because it was only brought to our attention in 2012 when we would have made the adjustments and so on. So
through the chair, Mr. Sandy, the people of Trinidad and Tobago have an entitlement to an Auditor General's report every year. And it appears to me as though you're blaming the Auditor General to some extent for those reports not being available. And we're talking almost 9, 10 years ago that we have not had the benefit of the Auditor General's report or the Auditor General's accounts. I mean, what do you have to say about that?
I'm glad that you're agreeing with me, member. What we are saying is that we have submitted our accounts to the Auditor General up to the year 2013. And we have submitted them on time. We have a statutory statutory timeline in which to submit those reports, and largely we have submitted them on time. It is up to the Auditor General to do the audits. Sitting at the Auditor General now are the years 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. They are now auditing the 2008. My understanding is 2009 they are now auditing, because they might have completed 2008. So the next report to come to Parliament will be the Auditor General report of 2008, and that is the one that we'll be questioned on. But we have submitted, we meaning the Tobago House of Assembly, have submitted all our financial statements to the Auditor General up to the year 2013. So in other words, if the Auditor General wishes, and the law allows them to, they can audit the 2013 report, and the 2014 report will be with the Auditor General in short order in the next 2 or 3 weeks' time. So they can audit the 2014 report. But they are now doing 2007, 2008, and I understand they're now starting 2009. It's no fault of ours. We have submitted our reports to the Auditor General. It's up to the Auditor General to do the audits. We can't be blamed for the Auditor General now auditing the year 2007 or 2008. They can audit 2013 if they so wish.
Okay. Mr. Sandy, you have a question coming from Ms. Ramdial.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Sandy, can you tell us what were the unspent balances for the period 2001 to 2015? And in addition to that, the total revenue and the total expenditure for those same years?
I'm afraid, Chair, I'd have to, those figures are available, but I'd have to provide them via separate report.
Sure.
But those figures are available.
We'll appreciate that. Yeah, we make a note of that. Yeah. Okay. Members of the Finance Committee, I would like to, is there any more questions? No? I would like to thank you for your contribution. At this time, we would like to invite the Tourism and Transport Division to take your place. We will ask Mr. Sandy his kind indulgence to remain with us, being the Chief Administrator. what I would have said early on in terms of the purpose of this inquiry, this public hearing. Mr. Stanley, again, has graciously continued to keep his presence here, and we appreciate that, and he has been helpful thus far. I would like you all to introduce yourselves to the committee and to the public. Please.
Good morning, everyone.
Just keep your voices up, because it's being recorded by Hansard, so we need to get every word that said, otherwise we will misrepresent you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Henry Cook, and I'm the Assistant Deputy General Manager, Operations Tobago, PTSC.
Henry Cook. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Cheryl Ann Solomon, Administrator, Division of Tourism and Transportation.
Good morning, everyone. I am Federica Brooks Adams, Director of Tourism, Division of Tourism and Transportation.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Samuel Henry, Transportation Coordinator at the Division of Tourism and Transportation.
Good morning. I am Gwen Toppin, Management Accountant, Division of Tourism and Transportation.
Okay, thank you very much. You have somebody in the back, yes? Yeah, just keep your voices up, please. Speak into the mic.
Good morning. I'm Sherilyn Paul, Project Officer 2, Division of Infrastructure and Public Utilities.
Just now. Sorry, no, your mic is not on now.
Good morning. I'm Wendy Guy Hernandez, Administrator, Division of Infrastructure and Public Utilities.
Good morning. I'm Patricia Thomas Clark. I'm the Assistant Manager of Operations, Public Transport Service Corporation, Tobago Division.
Good morning. My name is Barry Lee Graham, Engineering Supervisor, Mechanical Supervisor at PTSC Tobago.
That's it? Is there anybody else? That is it? Okay, thank you very much. What do you say now? Yeah. Yeah. I will call on Ms. Cheryl Ann Solomon to make an opening statement. A brief opening statement, please.
Good morning once again.
Yeah.
As the Administrator of Tourism and Transportation, I'd just like to remind all of us that tourism is all of us. So that it's not just the division that is responsible for tourism, but everyone in the island and who visit the island. And on this note, I say welcome to Tobago, beautiful island, and I trust that this session will be very productive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, let's get into the meat of it. In light of your responses, the Division of Tourism and Transport engages, do you all engage in direct marketing or tourism in Trinidad? Percy?
Sorry, I would prefer to refer this question to my director.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
Is that? Yeah. You see, based on your responses, you'll give certain figures, and it seems to be there's an increase in your tourism, generally speaking, and seem to be overshadowed by the domestic arrivals as tourists in Tobago. And it seemed to suggest that a significant portion or a significant number of your tourists are coming from Trinidad. Hence my asking whether or not there's a targeted campaigning or solicitation of visitors from Trinidad as part of your tourism drive.
Yes, we have targeted certain aspects of tourism in Trinidad. For example, we have every year a road show in Trinidad where we go to certain areas to sort of sell our products. I also want to point out that we have not been able to separately identify regional arrivals. These flights are often classified as domestic because they are not direct, and these numbers would be included in the domestic arrivals that we have produced.
So, I see. So it's just not Trinidad because of how the flights are configured?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that will account for the differences in. Now, are you satisfied with the air bridge support between Trinidad and Tobago at this point in time? I understand that it's something like, my last reading, there's something like 28 flights per day between Trinidad and Tobago in terms of airlift. Is that a true figure?
Yes, that figure seems to be correct. But to answer the question if we are satisfied, the real answer to that is sometimes. Because during a normal day, we don't have much of a problem. However, during peak periods or during peak times,
which would be
then
what
we
time?
are challenged. Let's say on a Friday evening coming to Tobago, or on a Sunday evening going to Trinidad, we have real peak traffic. Or during, for example, we just finished the Tobago Jazz Festival. During periods like those, during Easter and during the July-August vacation, then we have a challenge with the traffic coming from, with the service from the on the air bridge.
No, this seems perennial, right? What strategies or efforts have been made to rectify this?
Well, what has been happening lately is that the Tobago House of Assembly, along with stakeholders and Caribbean Airlines, have been sitting down. As a matter of fact, we sat down and developed what we call a heat map. And what the heat map does is to identify those peak periods that I just spoke about and determine the kind of supply that needs to be put forward on the air bridge in order to accommodate the demand at those peak periods. So we have looked at that, developed the heat map, so that we can in future deal with these periods.
But would it be fair to say that there's a high volume of traffic between Trinidad and Tobago, generally speaking?
Yes, it is. There's a high volume of traffic. And we could add that there is also this, what we could call the latent demand, where some people would be probably willing to come to Tobago, but just would not go to the airport because of some of the difficulty they might experience.
Yeah. So my next question therefore is, why have anybody, the powers that be it the government of Trinidad and Tobago or the THA, have not been able to attract private enterprise in, if not competing, but certainly providing an alternative source of airlift or whatever it is to Tobago? Has that been explored?
Well, I know the THA at one time had chartered a flight to deal, an airline that is, to deal with the July-August situation some time ago, and that helped tremendously. But for that to happen, it really has to be a sort of a policy decision, especially if it's coming from outside Trinidad and Tobago, because you run into problems with cabotage, for example. So that has to be a decision taken by the central government.
But is that not being engaged as a matter of priority, because it is the basis on which Tobago tourism will survive, will strive, or become more profitable, or survive?
Definitely, and I think it's something that needs to be looked at urgently. Probably that, or even restructuring the whole thing so that we can have dedicated airlines serving the Tobago air bridge. Because right now, what we have is not a real dedicated airlines to the air bridge. Sometimes we, for example, would be at the airport waiting to come to Tobago, and for some reason there might be a breakdown of an airplane, and what happens, we would have to be late, long lines, delayed. At the same time, I must add, at the same time, you'd be sitting in the departure lounge waiting, and you see airlines, the same airplanes loading and flying to other destinations, regional destinations.
Well, I can identify with that, with the most recent experience coming here yesterday, because I was advised I should be at the airport at 3 p.m. Mm-hmm. I got here at 10 to 3. Mm-hmm. I never came to Tobago until around almost 5, after 5, almost close to 6 o'clock. I could have gone to Miami and probably on my way back down. You know, so I was very disheartened by it. You know, I was very, very disheartened, and I can identify exactly what you were saying. And there are people who would like to come to Tobago more frequently and can come. As a matter of fact, as I have your ear now, as well, in situations like me, persons who are disabled, it was quite a challenge to have, and there seemed to be not a cohesive or any fixed policy how people with disability are to be transported, because there were about 2 other persons similarly disabled like me. And my experience internationally when I'm traveling is that the disabled, young, and persons in need of assistance are allowed to board the flight first. We boarded the flight last, and more so, we were made to wait on the tarmac somewhere around there while the bus brought other people. It was parked somewhere away from the closest finger, and people have to commute by bus. Of course, I commuted on my own wheels, you see. But I found that totally unacceptable, right? And then having to wait that long, I mean, given the challenges, and of course the challenges that I have to, or any disabled person would have to bear in mind, did occur. I won't go into details. I mean, you can just use the imagination. It did occur, and that is very unfortunate. So I will want to believe as a tourist destination, those are areas that one will have to look into. And I mean, coming here, I want to be positive. The hospitality is without question on par with the best. They're very engaging, very, very friendly, and so forth. But again, I am staying at a hotel and overnighted, of course, in order to be here on time. And the facility, there were only two rooms for the physically challenged like myself. And they were not what you will require to be physically challenged rooms at all. Had I not had work with an assistant, I would have been in great difficulty in having a shower to refresh myself this morning. I would have ended up taking a cowboy. So, you know, with assistant, I avoided the cowboy, and I had a shower with great difficulty. Now, you want what you have when you were coming as a tourist or whatever, or a business person, to accommodation in Tobago in a hotel that says it caters for the disability, that there is proper disability. But I want to believe that people who are dealing with these things are not really understanding, or probably they do not consult with the stakeholders, with the very users, because putting up a rail in a bathroom and making it bigger doesn't make it disability friendly. And I was surprised. A hotel I stayed in before I became paralyzed was Cocoa Reef. Cocoa Reef didn't have a disabled facilities as well. And I wonder how many other hotels in your stock of hotel rooms would be catering adequately for such. I mean, the disabled tourism, like in many other areas, there is a significant market internationally. If you go on a certain website, when you go in Europe, North America, you can see where they can tell you, they make comments on where the places to go that are user-friendly, and certainly they will flock to those places. If we are to be a tourist destination, we have to cater for all. I know it's a challenge, generally speaking, in Trinidad and Tobago, tourism or not, and it's something that we have to address with certain urgency. Tobago would not certainly be in any way could be certainly a flagship in bearing the banner of making their facilities, their public facilities, much more and quickly disability friendly, so as to attract persons differently below which resources and money to spend and to contribute to the economic welfare of the country. Yes. Having said that, I don't want to monopolize, because I'm here to ask you questions, right? Not to make statements. But I just could not resist what you were saying as one of the handicaps of transportation, and I haven't just recently been a victim of that, right? Wanted to share that with the members of the public and the committee, my fellow members as well. But Mr. Smith has a question for you, which I will invite him to do.
I always say leave the stars to the astronomers, and what we've read is your main income is from tourism, right? My background is marketing and advertising. And there's so many facets and different realms in tourism. I mean, there's destinations that sell decadence. You see Dubai and those oil-based places selling decadence. Now there are places that sell shopping. There are places that sell sun sports, beach sports, and so on. Those who sell cruise ship destinations for retirees and so on. There are those places that sell the spring break party nightlife, those who sell the casino nightlife. Just say in the Caribbean alone, you could find different pockets and corners in different islands that try and benchmark themselves as that. And again, you all will be the experts because you all will have the research and stuff. But just like everything else, things evolve all the time. So I don't know which one right now is the most lucrative worldwide in terms of which kind of tourism. Some people go for nature trails, for bird watching. But what does Tobago benchmark itself now? And if so, is it that we're looking at other ways or other revenue streams to enhance or rejuvenate or to move forward to try and see if you could get in more income? It's a kind of weird question, but I think it's understandably we're trying to find where our benchmark is. Because I tell you, I saw a debate a few years ago where people were actually discussing if to advertise Trinidad and Tobago combined. Because Trinidad market is different to Tobago. Trinidad is more industrial, business, finance. Tobago, as you know, is tourist. And there was debate if you should separate it. I mean, you see it in North America all the time, and it's such a hard space to find with all the noise that's going on in terms of the advertising. But are you all seeing you all evolving to find what is the more lucrative niche right now in tourism?
The first thing when we think about tourism is that we have to know our product in order to position it where we want to be. You say that you look at the other Caribbean islands, etc., and they offer different things. But because you have to know your product, there is where your product differentiation can come in and work for you. For example, we have within the whole Caribbean the sand, sun, and sea. But because we have now come to the point where we are beginning to understand our product, we can identify our product offerings and know that festivals can always play a part, an integral role actually in Tobago's tourism product. And hence we have festivals like the Blue Food Festival, the Heritage Festival, jazz, dragon boat, cycling, I could go on and on. And that is because we have taken the time to study our product in order to give that product differentiation that is absolutely necessary for creating a successful tourism destination.
Thank you very much, Chair. We've been advised in 2014, working on the hotel room expansion project, 2 properties were purchased at the cost of $32 million, the Mantle Lodge at Speyside and the Sanctuary Villa Resort at Black Rock. To date, can you give us the cost of these ventures and the timelines for opening?
Mantle Lodge and Sanctuary, with regards to the actual figures, I'll ask my management accountant to give you the details. But we just recently signed the contract for EDCOT to do the renovations and so on, and we are estimating that we will be ready by the end of this year. Right? So my management accountant will tell you the actual figures.
We would have spent $32 million to acquire both properties.
Yeah, just one follow-up question. How many rooms are we looking to expand by accommodation, and is this sufficient enough to boost the tourism sector here, or do you need additional rooms? And this is just a part of that project.
Approximately 78 rooms, and yes, we would need more, but the THA, with regards to the division, in our attempt to improve the quality and the availability of rooms, this is one of the steps that we're taking.
Can I ask, I don't know which one of you will be the appropriate person, if it's the director, Ms. Adams. The Jazz Festival just finished a couple hours ago, a day or so ago. This has been going on for somewhat 10 years now? Is it as old as that, or is more, or even greater vintage?
Approximately 10 to 11 years.
10 to 11 years. Now, I know when something like this begins, it's being nurtured into be a profit-bearing event. Is it at this point in time profit-bearing?
From where I sit, not really profit-bearing. It's more aimed at providing an opportunity for our entrepreneurs or business people to improve and to grow. And also, the ideal is that we become profitable. But at this point, we more or less closer to breaking even than to say a profit, because the idea of jazz, the jazz experience, is really to encourage the tourists to come to our island to explore much more than music, not just the singing and so on, but the island of itself. So it's an initiative that was really geared to encourage our entrepreneurs here to improve, rise to the challenge and the standard that are required. As I'm sitting as the administrator, it is my hope, whether it's under my watch or my successor, that we could really review the whole jazz experience as a THA and, yes, improve on the business persons or the entrepreneurs, but also make it profitable so that my staff, especially my accounting staff, could be more comfortable with the whole idea. And I'm saying that to say that we would have been under some timelines and so on for the festival to come off. Thank God the reviews that we got were pretty good, but we still could do more, and we know that. So in the post-mortem, we are hoping that we could make some recommendations to the Executive Council, to the THA, that we could really see it as a profitable venture.
Yeah, that's all, yeah.
Yes.
So at this stage, can you tell us at this stage whether or not, what percentage of your visitors for the jazz is domestic as opposed to foreign?
It would be a little early to give you that information now, but if you give me a little time, we would provide that information at a later date, if you allow us.
Yeah. But what about in the past? What was the trend from the past? Is there a trend? Was there a trend?
Just come in. I'll ask my director to answer.
And also in the meantime, I mean, if you don't have this, in the meantime, there's a short question. What was the cost? What is the cost involved in making such a production?
The initial approval was 19 million. 19 million. But because of the economic constraints, we had to cut the budget. And we tried to bring it as close to 16 million. I'm still to do the final figures as to the real cost, but we had to cut the budget because of our economic situation.
Okay. So we go back to the first question.
This question immediately takes us back to the challenge of identifying regional tourists as opposed to domestic tourists, seeing that we are not able to separately identify who are Trinidadians and who are regional.
But you mean because from the Caribbean perspective, right?
From
because
the Caribbean
you do not fill out
perspective.
an immigration slip coming in from the Caribbean anymore?
No.
You don't?
No.
Okay. So, I mean, that is probably an issue we need to consider. I mean, in order to track the movement of Caribbean brothers and sisters, we need to be able to know how many people coming from abroad. I find that very odd, eh? That's odd, that you will land from Grenada or Tobago, Jamaica, Ghana, as the case may be, and you come off your plane and you're coming here without filling a slip to see where you're coming from?
Madam Chair, yes, you fill out a slip at Piaco.
Right.
What we are saying is that when you come into Trinidad and Tobago, the first point of entry, you do fill out that slip. But you can come to Trinidad and Tobago for 3 weeks and decide to come to Tobago for jazz, and we cannot tell the difference, whether you're Trinidadian or Grenadian or, you know, so that's the point she's making.
Well, very good, thanks. But do you think it would be useful, having identified that issue, that we implement something, not to get too bureaucratic again, to impede the free flow of movement, but to track that as an information that is necessary in you making any plans towards focusing more into the region or elsewhere, that we have some means of tracking persons that are coming in that kind of way?
Yes, the research department of the Division of Tourism has that responsibility, and I believe that they are looking at ways and means of doing some kind of survey that will give us an idea of who are the visitors coming to Tobago. I know it has been done in the past, it was done in the past, and, but we need to continue that kind of activity so that we can say, well, okay, based on the results of our survey, estimate the number of non-nationals who are coming to Tobago for the jazz and so on.
You want to answer? Okay, Ms. Batiste? Sorry, Ms.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to piggyback a bit on what you said, this is a situation that is a very simple one because our policies must be data-driven. It can't be emotive in context and in form. And from where I sit, to me, it's simple. Those foreigners coming through Tobago should be asked to complete a small slip, no bureaucratic form, just a brief form that captures where they're from and the length of time that they are staying in Tobago. Because without that mechanism, from where I sit, it's difficult for any research department to capture that kind of data. How would you go about capturing such data that would influence the policies that the division would have to develop from time to time to further stimulate the tourism sector?
Yeah.
Remember, you have just identified the research that needs to be done. Basically, as I said, as you said, a slip indicating where you're from and so on. But we also remember, we have to bear in mind that we also have the sea bridge. You have the air bridge and the sea bridge. And there are no limitations on persons once you enter into Trinidad and Tobago on travel anywhere between Trinidad and Tobago. And if we had to do this on a consistent basis, when I say consistent, if every flight and every ferry trip that comes to Tobago, we have to ask persons to fill out a slip. It means that we'd have to give everyone on those flights a slip to fill out. And the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago might consider that to be a bit of a
My
humbug.
suggestion, I'm sorry if I accept full blame for my weak hearing, communicating properly what I meant. Not for the locals to fill out that small slip. It is for foreigners to fill out, to complete, not locals.
And how do you identify a foreigner?
Well, just as when you travel internationally, locals go here, foreigners go in the other direction. But I'm saying we can't work out, you are going down into process. I'm not dealing with process here. I'm dealing with a solution for which the process can be worked out. Once the idea is one of searching for solutions, then a policy decision will have to be taken that, listen, we are going to implement X or Y, and therefore the follow-up procedures can be worked out at the level, whichever committee or what have you. But I'm saying the issue of ensuring that policies develop are data-driven and not emotive in intent or direction.
And I certainly agree with you on that, member. And as I said, the research department of the Division of Tourism will certainly be looking at that.
Yeah, thank you.
Through the chair,
Mr. Solomon.
on behalf of the mariners and the ocean-going folk, and that includes everyone from the fisherman to the reef boat operator, to the yachtsman, to the yacht charterer, the regattas, I have witnessed and I've heard the pleas and I've seen for my own eyes the sufferation that these mariners go through in the island of Tobago. The reef boatmen are picking up people at Store Bay while the waves are crashing and tourists are falling off the back of the boats. I've seen the reef boats on Pigeon Point actually doing haul-out repairs while they balance on rocks. Highly dangerous, highly toxic, destroying our reefs, putting the reef boat cleaners and men themselves in danger. And for the life of me, I see them having to tote gasoline on the back of their trucks and haul it over to the boats. The gas is spilling all over and destroying the reef, destroying the ocean. We have fishing tournaments here, which are international grade. We have great yachting, yet still there is no sign of a marina or even a haul-out facility or a proper gas station or Coast Guard base or Reef Patrol base in Tobago. I don't know if you can help me if that is on the cards or if that is at all being considered by the tourism department of the THA.
Yes, I can answer that by saying that it's not on the tourism department's agenda, but on the Tobago House of Assembly's agenda. I know that as we speak, surveys have been done and efforts have been made to identify an ideal spot for a marina. It's one of the projects that the government has identified as important for the development of Tobago. Efforts were made in the past. We had an entrepreneur who had put up a gas station in Plymouth, and because the turnover was pretty small, and the markup and sale of fuel is not very high, the business floundered. And we have had other opportunities that should have passed by. But certainly, we recognize what you are talking about, and we know that it's important if we have to develop a tourism industry in Tobago, and we have to service the yachting fraternity and so on, that we must put these things in place. And as I said, we are actively looking at that situation right now.
Yeah, thank you. Again, Mr. Sandy, I want you to take a break, have some water, and let me see. You can get some of these able people to help you along, okay? The question I have here, you have basically 3 major festivals or events being hosted in Tobago annually, which is the Heritage Festival, you have the Carnival, and you have the Jazz Festival just concluded here. Is there any way of assisting us to know which of those mentioned will be the most profitable or attract the greatest amount of tourism or patronage, as the case may be? And why I'm asking this quickly is because in order to prioritize the scarcity in your allocations, you would have to say which venture means more should be given or something should be taken away from. In a gist, that's it.
In keeping with what I had said earlier about some of the initiatives that will play an integral role in Tobago's tourism advancement, because in our effort for product differentiation, we looked at festivals. I will have to say that the Heritage Festival should be one of the main priority areas, and the Blue Food Festival, because being able to sell, for want of a better word, our food. A lot of people, we have noticed that in this new tourism where people are looking for more definite activities, food has been one of the greater aspects of people traveling for culinary
experience.
Yes, for an experience. And we find that in these days of tourism, when you have something that is extraordinary, like an experience, the best way to sell an experience is because it's not something that you can wrap your arms around. It's something that you have to feel, which is why we are going towards this sort of experiences instead of the normal sand, sun, and sea. So I will have to say the heritage, because it showcases our culture, and lots of people travel for culture and heritage. And we'll have to say food because of the experiences that we can offer in these areas.
So again, is there some basis you all have in place that could track the amount of persons, the number of persons that would come for either one of these festivals, the Blue Food or the Heritage? Like, 100 comes for the Heritage, 200 comes to the Blue Food. Is there any ways of tracking anything? Because as member Jennifer Batiste Primer said, these things must be driven by data. You must have the data to inform decisions. It will be based on some empirical considerations.
We do have in our division a research unit. We do not have the information with us, but we can pass that on to you at a later date.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
It is available. Is it available? It is available, not with us, at the research unit, so that's why I said.
Okay, well, we'll appreciate you forwarding it to us as well. Yes?
Thank you.
Through the chair, as I understand it, there was a law passed where foreigners weren't allowed to own land in Tobago without a license since 2007. We're informed that has had a dramatic effect to the negative of foreign direct investment. Can I ask if the THA is looking at changing that policy?
Yes, member. The THA is having a second look at that policy. But I also want to add that sometimes the THA is unfairly blamed for the slow implementation of that policy. It largely rests with the Ministry of, I think the Ministry of Trade in Port of Spain. THA has a minimal input into that process. It largely rests with the Ministry of, I think it's Trade in Trinidad. But it's something that the Tobago House of Assembly is looking at. It's national in scope, in the sense that if you're a foreigner and you have to own certain properties in Tobago, you're required to have a license and so on. But the process ought not to be long drawn out and a difficult one. But it appears to be so, because of all of the factors of the approval doesn't rest with the Tobago House of Assembly. We have a minimal role to play in it.
But do you agree that it has a significant negative impact on foreign direct investment in the island?
I have no information to agree to that. But what I do know is that it was recommended at the time because the cost of real estate in Tobago had skyrocketed, and there was tremendous speculation in the international market on properties in Tobago, and it put the average Tobagonian basically could not have afforded to purchase anything in Tobago, and that regulation, law, license arrangement was put in place to kind of put some kind of control on the cost of real estate in Tobago, because at that time when it was put in place, the average Tobagonian couldn't even dream to buy property in Tobago.
Thank you for that. Could I just ask, do you know how many licenses have been issued to foreigners to own property in Tobago?
No, I don't, but that figure is available from the ministry. I think it's Ministry of Trade, but that figure is available. But it's not a large amount, I know.
Mr. De Freitas?
Yes, my contribution is two-part. The second part is a question, and the first part is tacking back to Ms. Baptiste Primus and the chairman's comments in regards to tracking for these specific events for tourism on the island of Tobago. I would like to humbly suggest that one way of tracking is at the point of ticket sales as opposed to the point of entry. The reason being, for example, if ticket sales were done online, then you can definitely at that point either purchase or point of ordering the tickets, you can ask a couple of questions to find out what the address is. You can even go as far, if you're doing it online via website or whatnot, to sell directly to other countries, be it Grenada or Barbados, and at that point, based on the orders that you've gotten there, you can find out exactly how many international arrivals you get per event, and that way you would get more feedback in order to develop policy. So that was the first comment. The second part is a question. Your submission indicated that marketing initiatives undertaken by the Division of Tourism and Transportation led to an increase in international tourist arrivals by air and by cruise. Could you describe for me some of these marketing initiatives, as well as have all of these marketing initiatives continued during the current fiscal year?
The division engaged in dedicating advertising programs that highlighted a highly differentiated product and the uniqueness of the destination. The use of social media, online and offline trade activities, tour operator and travel agency training, and leveraging the popularity of world-renowned opinion leaders from Tobago as credible tourism ambassadors. We also took on what we call promotional analysts to further study, give us market intelligence as to afford us deeper penetration into existing markets and allow us insights into new destinations.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Ramona?
Thank you very much, Chair. You answered part of the question just now, Ms. Brooks-Adams. In addition to that, I just want to say, within the Caribbean region, and I also want to ask a question, and I quote some stats here. In 2005, Tobago had 88,200 tourists arriving. By 2015, that had dropped to 22,435. When we look at tourism within the Caribbean region, we have seen growth in Jamaica and Barbados. Do you think that it would be wise, ma'am, to follow their models and implement some of what they are doing?
With all due respect, no, ma'am, because we do have a different product. It goes back to understanding your product. If we would look at the arrivals from source markets, we would observe, you call Jamaica, so I will go with Jamaica, that most of Jamaica's tourists come from Canada and China. It tends to follow that people go where the currency can have the greatest values. Because Jamaica is also a very touristic destination, they have the right mix for the type of product that they attract. So to say that we should follow the model of another Caribbean country, we have to know our product and drill down to it, not look at what Jamaica has or the Dominican Republic has, or even Cuba. They are quite different products and could never fit into our product, mainly because of the differentiation, the different things that people has to offer. And being the most southerly of the Caribbean islands, we cannot compete on sand, sun, and sea, which is why we have to always recognize and keep in mind, we have to understand our product and drill down on what we have.
Follow-up question. So in light of all of this information and knowledge that you have, why has there been such a consistent decrease over the years in tourist arrivals to Tobago?
There have been many challenges that confronted the development of or the increase of marketing of arrivals in Tobago. For example, airlift that was not readily accessible. We are mostly long-haul markets. There was a passenger tax that was introduced that severely affected our long-haul travel ability. Because of the fact that this passenger tax was introduced, it made the flights too expensive, and therefore we had to find innovative ways to to make our destination attractive. Because, and I have to always go back again to product differentiation, which is critical because of the fact that if it was sun, sun, and sea, they will go to closer destinations where they can get the value for the money after you have added on the passenger tax that was introduced by the airlines.
Mr. Samuel, this question is for you. Yes. Tell me, what is the fleet of public transport buses in Tobago at this point in time?
Let me refer the question to Mr. Cook, who is in charge of public transport in Tobago.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. 45 buses are available on the island. In terms of the size of the fleet in Tobago, it's 45, but they aren't all functional.
How many are functioning?
As of today's figure,
yeah,
there are 14 buses that are available for
14
use.
of 14
today. Yeah. But the figure I dare say at this juncture, it fluctuates on a daily basis.
So for instance, the fluctuation?
The fluctuation, I mean, like for instance, at the end of today, you may have a figure that says 18 buses. Right? It goes like that. And we have to bear in mind it's an age fleet you're dealing with. For instance, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, right? We had 21 buses available one day. So you keep moving, figures quite easily as you go along.
So other question I was going to ask you will probably be self-evident without even you asking. So how much of those buses are dedicated to, say, tourism purposes?
Well, we have not really dedicated buses as such on the fleet, right? When the request maybe ask of us to provide buses, we do it on a what's available basis.
So if you have a fleet of 40 and only 14 is operational, and you have a request for 2 or 3 buses, a cruise came in and they want buses, what will be your position? it would not be able to be satisfied.
Well, we have tried, and I dare say, to some extent, maybe divinely so, to successfully respond to the request of the Division of Tourism. On all the occasions that they have had the ships coming in, they have asked us for assistance. And we have been able to give them the figures I have over a 12-day period, dating back from October to present. We have been able to give them as much as 105 buses, as much as 8 buses in some cases per day, to be able to meet their demands.
Okay, the other question is, the Public Transport Service Corporation,
Yes, sir.
it is central government driven, is it, and operated? Yes?
Yes, sir.
And there's a division in Tobago that is managed by the Tobago House of Assembly, or that is not so?
The Public Transport Service Corporation in Tobago, our line secretary is the Division of Infrastructure and Public Utilities. Right? We have to account to the Division of Infrastructure and Public Utilities. Right? So hence the reason why Mrs. Hernandez is here, under whose ambit we perform and have to account to.
So what is the relationship between Trinidad's central government and the THA in terms of public transport service buses being made available in the country?
Of course, that's a question I'm unable to answer because I know there's something.
Unable to answer?
Yes, because there's something there in terms of the link between the THA and the PTSC Port of Spain that I'm not all privy to in terms of how the buses are acquired. But I know when buses are bought for Port of Spain, they would give us a certain amount of those buses for Tobago. That is what has been happening over the years. Of course, the THA would have purchased buses from time to time, dating back to 1997. And they have purchased buses on behalf of PTSC. Again, the arrangement between the PTSC, Port of Spain, and the THA.
They are refunded?
No, there's no refund, as far as I'm aware.
They're not purchased on behalf of you. If I'm purchasing something on behalf of you, I expect to get back my money? Yes?
They're trying to do the shortfall as far as the needs of the public is concerned on the island. So the THA they have risen to the occasion and
so would you agree that this is woefully inadequate for the servicing of the general public of Tobago, far less tourism, the tourism market? Would you say it's woefully inadequate? What you were just saying here?
It's highly untenable. It is something that is very, very unbearable at times when we have those calls because, and that's the other thing, when it is that we have the call for the from the tourism department to get buses to transport the tourists. If it is that the traveling public generally sees those buses transporting the tourists and they're on the streets, not being able to get access to transport, that's the kind of a dilemma that we find ourselves in, to be able to dovetail and to tweak and to satisfy the expectations of the general public at the same time trying to do the tourism calls. So those are the challenges that we are faced with.
Those are significant challenges. Mr. Sandy, I would just like to bring you back in here for this moment. That is a serious issue you just raised here. This, to me, underlies the whole thing. Without transportation is one of the elements of your elements of production, of productivity. And without a reliable transportation system, even for the locals, far less the tourism, what are we doing? This is like spinning it up in mud. You can't move people with goods or services from one place to the next. What is really going on? That is something to me have to be an urgent priority to be addressed. So what is being done?
THA, in recognition of the need to have buses on the island, had actually placed in its budget the purchase of, I believe, 13 new buses this year, but because of 50 new buses. We actually 50. We actually sent a team off to Brazil. They looked at the buses and so on. We purchased, I think, it was the Volare buses. We have purchased them before. But because of budgetary constraints, we couldn't afford to do that this year. So we had to shelve the idea of purchasing those 50 buses. But we had them in plan to do. And I must agree with you that the bus fleet in Tobago is woefully inadequate. And of course, it's extremely unreliable given the inadequacy of the number of buses. So you can't really depend on the Public Transport Service Corporation in Tobago for transport. It's almost like you come and if a bus comes, if a bus shows up, you ride on it. If not, you find alternative means of transport. It's woefully inadequate. I must agree with you on that.
So therefore, even for me, I was going to ask you this question, which I must put to you. I mean, in terms of the physically challenged, you go to the developed country. I just came back from the the UK. I came back from Miami. I can get onto any bus. I can get into any taxi, as a matter of fact, without any problems. What of those buses which are there buses dedicated or fitted to transport the physically disabled person? And
Yes.
of those buses you buy, are any going to be earmarked for that, or make sure that all of the buses are suitably outfitted so as to make that allowance?
Yes and no. There are some buses that were purchased for use by the different disabled. My personal view is that we should mainstream the whole idea of making buses accessible to disabled persons, in that all buses, all public transport should be made available. And we shouldn't have these special buses, because to me, it contributes to the continued stigmatization and alienation of disabled people when you only have a certain type of bus that they alone can travel on.
That's right.
I mean, you can't converse with your colleagues and that kind of thing. So my personal view is that we should mainstream that, and all public transport buses should be disabled friendly and have the necessary equipment to treat with disabled people. But I know Mr. Cook might be able to answer this. I know that of the fleet that was purchased in Trinidad for they call them the LDAM buses, LDAMO buses. A number of them were sent to Tobago. But in my view, that is not that is not the way we should go at all.
So then the ball is in your court in terms of a policy, in formulating the policy. I mean, the technocrats may be there and implement it, but is that part of influencing government policy in your contribution in terms of when you
well, certainly any say I have in this matter, it would be attempting to influence government policy in that direction of mainstreaming the public transport to facilitate different able people.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Miss Baptiste.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Sandy. I could not agree with you more, because if we are to attain first world status, how we treat the children and the differently abled is very important. I want to turn the attention somewhat, but before I do so, I understood either yourself or Mr. Cook perhaps to have said that there are 45 buses in Tobago with only 14 operating.
Yes, member, that's what I said.
So it means, therefore, that 31 buses are out of operation. What are you all doing about that? Don't you all have mechanics on board? If you don't have mechanics, is it that these buses, these 31 buses, they are not repairable? What? I think the average Tobagonian would want to have information as to what the administration is doing regarding 31 buses out of compliance.
Yes, member. In response to your concerns, what is happening is that we have not just sat idly by and allowed these buses to just go down and stay down. There's an engineering department that is established in Tobago, PTSC. It's functional. There are 10 mechanics, and there are also trainees that are also assigned to that department. However, we are having some serious challenges in terms of acquiring spares on a timely basis to ensure that those buses are repaired and are available for service on an ongoing basis. And as I indicated earlier, we do have an aged fleet. The buses are aged. And in spite of your best efforts in terms of trying to streamline the repairs, it's difficult to determine exactly what is going to happen next.
The wear and tear.
The wear and tear. Mm-hmm. So you fix buses today, you do your monthly checks and so on, your daily checks and all those things, and there's no guarantee that those things that you have dealt with today means that the bus is going to be continuous on the road thereafter, because the other things that you might not have touched, that will go down. And the parts are not readily available. That's one of the serious challenges that we have. The mechanics, however, continue to work and do their best. We have been asking for training and so on, continuous training. We have had assistance even from the manufacturers of those buses, the Yutong factory, and also the Haiger technicians came not too long ago, a few months last year. I think it was they came in September of last year and spent a few months with us to train our mechanics and to give assistance in repairing of those buses. But they did not make much of an impact, because a lot of what was expected could not have happened in the absence of spares. And it takes a long while for spares to get here, right? We would order the spares on a timely basis, but it takes as much as 6 months for some items to get here. And that has been a major setback for us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cook, for that explanation. Mr. Chairman, through you, Mr. Sandy, I did note in the written responses from the Tobago House of Assembly the intention to purchase 50 volunteer buses, but because the funds were not allocated, the THA had to shelve those plans. And my question is, perhaps in the absence of large-scale acquisition of buses, the THA can perhaps focus on the incremental acquisition of buses. That is to say, if funds are not available for 50, then purchase 5. Purchase 5 this year. And next year, if you don't get sufficient funds, and you may be able to purchase 2 or 3. So instead of not acquiring any at all, you do it more on an incremental basis. Have you all considered that approach? Because we are into, some serious economic constraints.
I couldn't agree with you more, member, and I'm certain that the Tobago House of Assembly is considering a smaller number of purchases. I don't know, because of contractual arrangements, why maybe they could not have purchased 5 instead of 50, because I know a team went to Brazil, would have made some arrangements and all of that. I don't know if that
may have impacted on the price of the...
impacted on the whole arrangement. But I'm certain that it is still on the front burner, and it's something that's currently being discussed about supplementing the PTSC fleet in Tobago.
Thank you kindly. And Mr. Chairman, if you would just bear with me and permit me. In your written responses on pages 3, I'm focusing on pages 3 and 4, you identify, and when I'm saying you, Mr. Sandy, I'm not talking about you in the person, you in the THA. You identify that the attractions which appear to be financially feasible revolve around Boca Reef and Island Pool Tour, Main Ridge Reserve, Pigeon Point Heritage Park, Fort King George, Torbay, Argyle Waterfalls, Englishman's Bay, scuba diving, and of course the festivals. But then you pointed out that the attractions or experiences that are experiencing decline includes Little Tobago or Bird of Paradise Island, which is located some 20 minutes off the village of Speyside. And it is the home of 50 species of native birds and occurrence and existence that people all over the world would want to see. But you pointed out that this attraction is presently experiencing challenges due to the existing infrastructure. And my simple question is, could you share with this committee some of the infrastructural challenges that you all are experiencing with regards to Little Tobago or Bird of Paradise Island?
Yeah, the main infrastructure has to do with the jetty and landing facilities to access the island. It's an island just off the Speyside, and the jetty has been under some repairs for a while. And I suspect, I know that is one of the major deterrents to persons visiting the island in a safe way, so that the boats can dock in and you can walk off the boat onto the jetty and onto the island. I know that is one of the challenges that we have. Okay.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, so is it how far or how low or how high on the priority list is the repair to this jetty? Because repairing this jetty to make it more accessible could be quantified in terms of foreign exchange into Tobago.
Yes, I guess you can make that connection, but it's on the plans to be done, and it's on both ends, on the Speyside end and on the Little Tobago end. We have a challenge with respect to, in a general sense, with respect to jetties in Tobago. We just don't have the capacity on the island. So generally, if you're doing repairs to jetties and so on, you have to contract an outfit out of Trinidad, and it requires barge, up cranes and the kind of equipment that's necessary. Just the mobilization alone costs a couple of $1 million. So it's fairly difficult to get that done as easily as you probably might get it done in Trinidad. So I don't know if this is the case here, but it might be worth the while to consolidate and have an outfit deal with 3 or 4 jetties at the same time to minimize the cost of so doing. But I know that the repair to that jetty is on the agenda.
And my final question to you, Mr. Sandy.
Final,
Yes, final. In light of the indicators that you just expressed, the huge mobilization and other costs associated with such a project, have you all considered public-private partnership approach to solving some of these problems?
Well, you know, the PPP has been the most recent buzzwords that are being used now, and we have considered that. In fact, we are considering that with respect to the development of a port at Studley Park. Yes, we are considering that in the case of the development of a port at Studley Park for the quarry, and as indicated for other works. Secretary Joel Jack is heavily involved with that initiative, and we are considering a number of avenues for public-private partnerships.
You're welcome. Mr. De Freitas?
Yes, just to piggyback on the honourable member's contribution, I wanted to suggest that bird watching, as you were talking earlier about our branding and our product, could also bring in a lot of tourists. I was just Googling here the number of bird watchers worldwide, and the first thing that came up is 60 million American bird watchers congregate on an ever-shrinking quarry. So that alone can fulfill the demand for international tourism here. So it may be strongly suggested that we look into getting that tourist product back up and running, because it can contribute to a very large portion of the number of tourists coming here in conjunction with the sand and the sea and the sun.
Yes, member. I know that at one time we used to have an alliance with ASA Right Nature Center, Speyside, and so on. So we are familiar with that niche, and it's something that we need to certainly build on. But it's certainly a very good idea.
Mr. Solomon?
Through the chair, I agree with my colleague, bird watchers. I think also one of the highest spending tourist visitors to any island or any tourist spot. I just have a few comments, suggestions, and then a question. In relation to the transport between Trinidad and Tobago, it was mentioned that there's a heat map and that you're looking into solving the problems. My comment is that the system can be improved. For instance, if someone is on standby, there should be some system of notification to people on standby. There's a lot of block booking that happens where people block book and actually don't turn up for flights, which turns the whole system into confusion. I think that the booking system should be modernized. I think there's only one booking system in Tobago where you can go and actually book a ferry ticket. This should be able to be done far easier with the internet and technology we have now. In relation to the comments about the operationalization of the getting the statistics in relation to foreigners, it can simply be done by an ID card. I mean, when you come and you travel, you have to present an ID card. Either if you're a foreigner, you won't have a local ID card or a local driver's license, so that can be easily solved. The difficulty that I have in relation to the promotion of Tobago is that there's a major crime situation. A number of foreign advisories have advised not to come to Tobago because of the atrocious murders that have taken place of tourists and visitors. Most recently, the horrendous murder of the Wheeler family couple, which has triggered British advisory, Canada advisory about how safe it is not to come to Tobago. It's not safe to come to Tobago. And this rolls into the question that I have in relation to how are we branding and marketing, how much money has been spent, and is there a consistent branding to promote the island?
No takers?
Okay. Overall, from time to time, there have been incidences where travel advisories go out what we do is that we have been trying very hard to make sure that it goes out there that Tobago is still a relatively safe place. The incidences that happen we do not at all condone it, but in every budding or promising tourism destination, we have to admit that with the advent of developing tourism, crime also comes with it. We try to make sure that we put all the right words out there that Tobago is relatively safe. We try very hard. We introduced the Tobago policing, the crime stopping initiatives. So what we try to counteract that with is by putting out the initiatives that we have put in place to ensure or to assure the people that Tobago is still a relatively safe place. We try to superimpose the fact that Tobago is green, clean, serene, and relatively safe.
I could agree with that.
Right.
Okay.
And I would like to have my colleague help me out here.
Don't know about the help out. But I think we have to put the whole thing into perspective. Yes, from time to time, we have incidences. There's no question about that. But when you look, let's take, for instance, for the year, we are now almost to the end of April. We haven't had any murder in Tobago. But still, we have advisories going out saying, do not visit Trinidad and Tobago because of course, the situation that is taking place in Trinidad. So sometimes, because Tobago, and of course it must happen that way, is twinned to Trinidad, we come under the Trinidad and Tobago situation, where the advisories go out about Trinidad and Tobago, although in Tobago it might be a little different from in Trinidad. And when you look back, as a matter of fact, we had a stakeholders meeting a couple months ago, probably about a month ago, and the police, as a key stakeholder, a very important stakeholder in the tourism industry in Tobago, made a presentation. And they were saying that the crime against tourists is reducing. And they proved, they brought the statistics to show that that is happening. So yes, we do have incidences from time to time, but overall, I think we are moving in the correct direction. We have just launched, just last year, the Tourism Police Initiative and the Tourism Police section within the police service. And they are around, they're riding their bicycles, they go on the beaches, they provide the sense of security. As a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, when the TUI ship came in here, the TUI cruise ship, normally when that ship docks, a whole section, a whole number of them get on their bicycles and ride around Tobago. And it was so beautiful, such a beautiful sight to see that some of these policemen on bicycles were riding along with the tourists. So things are happening. Yes, we do have our instances, but I think we are moving in the correct direction.
I just want to ask, I didn't quite get the answer to the question in relation to the consistent marketing and promotion of the island. How much do you spend? Is there a consistent international and local marketing plan or policy that's in place? If you could shed some light on that for us, please. Yes, is there a consistent international marketing plan or that is active, and what sort of money have you spent on it in the past 10 years? And have you been measuring its success?
That question, we would have to provide the actual information at a later date if you allow us. But yes, we would have had marketing plans available which we work with. But if you allow us, we will provide it at a later time.
will conclude with you all shortly because we have another group to go into. But you can see what critical importance you all are to the THA and the Tobago's development. That members here, can spend the rest of the afternoon engaging you all in trying to get a better assessment in order to be of some assistance in helping to move forward the development of Tobago. There's a few questions remaining, right? And one of which, quickly and shortly, is what type of tourist market is Tobago geared towards? Is it a luxury market, a middle-income tourist market, or is it a backpack market, or combination of all three?
We will have to say that because of the type of destination that we want to be, our initiatives are geared towards, as much as possible, getting the front of the plane.
The luxury market.
Yes, sir. And this is because, middle, upper income, this is because of the type of product that we are gearing to become. We are so far south that we have to do something to be able to attract the affluent for the types of products that we have in mind and are developing.
Okay, which exactly brings me to the other question that you now highlighted, which is of the stock of hotel rooms, of hotels. How much of them are really geared towards luxurious type of tourists? Are there how many 5-star hotels are there in Tobago as opposed to 3 stars, 2 stars, or no stars at all?
There are international rating standards that relate to hotel and guest houses. None of our local hotels have been assessed against these standards. Any ratings are self-imposed, and we are therefore reluctant to adopt these ratings.
Wow. So, that's a war moment, eh? Wow. So, that has to be re-engaged. One has to look at it if you really want to be a player in the market in terms of luxurious.
No, sir, but I think that is a good thing, with all due respect, because if we are looking at luxury market, it will make us do two things. It will make us put policy in place to adopt the international rating standards, and it would immediately improve our room stock because we are gearing towards something. And as a matter of fact, it comes in with the general idea of the tourism room upgrade program, because we have in our vision a mindset of being luxury. And if we engage our private sector to collaborate with us, because in all these deliberations, we have realized that collaboration with public and private sector is the key to success in tourism. And if we do all this holistically, we will be going towards the same page at this, or the same end at the same time.
But you know what you're saying here? I have an issue with it, which is, in order, you must have some kind of, the Magdalena where I am, they market themselves as a 4-star hotel. Do you know that?
Yes, sir, I am aware of that. But who told them that they are 4-star?
They just tell me that they are 4 stars.
No, but I'm just asking that provocative question to bring to the fore that there is no international rating standard here.
No, there's no entity that goes about rating them in Tobago.
There is a Bureau of Standards, but still, that I want to rephrase this by saying that there is a standard by which they are measured, which is in the Trinidad and Tobago context, but it is not the international rating standard. So because of that, we can...
So to tell me, just to interrupt you. So in Trinidad, you have the Radisson, you have the Hyatt, which are international brands, right?
But they would have had gone through the international rating standard to be able to say that. but there is no rating standard in Trinidad and Tobago to rate hotels.
So, Ms. Brooks Adams, what you're saying is that hotels in Tobago will sell themselves as they see fit, but the services they offer have not been measured against the international standard.
I am saying that in a way, yes. I'm saying that to say that because of what they offer, they can categorize themselves into a standard. But because there is no international rating, we cannot say that they are 4, 3, or 2 stars. We can say, for example, that the Radisson is X-star or the Marriott or whatever, because they have been measured against an international standard. In Tobago, I can't say that that is the case.
So it's something to be done in Tobago?
Yes,
or for
sir.
Tobago. And having said that, I think my member colleague here, Ms. Jennifer Batiste Primers, was asking what difficulties you all face, what the greatest challenges you all face as in the Tobago House of Assembly at this point in time, be it economic or otherwise. What is the greatest challenge you all face? Well,
say again?
Well, generally, or she's asking in regards of tourism, what is the greatest challenge you all face? But I had it on a broader perspective, what is the greatest challenge you all face? I mean, always will be money, never enough money. But having said that, be that as it may, what is the greatest challenge you think need to be addressed from your perspective? Be it tourism, be it transportation, be it whatever. But at this point in time, since you are tourism, what is the greatest challenge you will face in the tourism division?
I would have to say one of the greatest challenges that we face is that most of the hotels in Tobago are privately owned. And because of that fact, we are not able to adequately say to them, or we have to convince instead of demand that certain things has to be done, because there is no policy in place for any. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Well, you're holding yourself out as a lame dog there. I mean, if you are an authority and setting policy, there's rules, regulations, and so forth, and they want to be players in your market.
The greatest challenges that we face is that we have to have a policy framework in which we have to have a legal framework in which certain guidelines are set out for the industry.
Yeah.
And because of this lack, we are unable to put the systems in place that are necessary. So while there is no legal framework, we have to try to convince. And until and unless there is a legal framework, we will still have that challenge.
Through the chair, this is relevant. Have you met with the Trinidad and Tobago Hotel Association? I mean, these are the stakeholders that would have the recommendations and you could have influence with.
We have a chapter of the Trinidad and Tobago Hotel Association in Tobago, and we work collaboratively. But that still doesn't exclude the fact that in order for the challenges to be alleviated, there must be policy.
Through the chair, Ms. Brooks Adams, aren't you in charge of the policy and the collaborations and working together with these stakeholders?
Because there is no legal framework, we have to use what we call moral suasion, which is what we have been trying to do and what we have been advocating.
Thank you very much, members of the Tourist Division. What is, yeah, you needed something, yeah? You have to put on your mic, thanks.
I want to bring to the fore here that the policy direction is guided by the Secretary of Tourism.
By the Secretary of Tourism?
Yes, so not me who directs policies.
Well, let me say this. Let me say at this point in time, what has been unearthed here this morning is quite a lot, and therefore cries out that certainly there will be another occasion, and hopefully soon, where we will have to ask you to invite you to come back, because there's a lot that has been raised of significant importance that I believe critically affect whatever development Tobago is seeming to focus on in terms of reaching is a share of foreign exchange and so revenues and so forth, and we are here to assist. So on that basis, I will want to say that we will suspend our inquiry with you until further notice and bring on the other division, which is, I think, is the Ministry of Agriculture. You have been very helpful. Pardon me? Yeah. You all have been very, very, very helpful. I hope that you will have felt some relief ventilating some of which you have shared with us, and that not only the ears of this committee will have heard you, but other powers that be will have heard you all as well. Having said that, do you have any closing remarks, Mrs. Solomon, would you like to leave with us and the public before you take your leave?
Just a small correction, Chair, Miss Solomon. But
sorry?
Just a small correction, Miss Solomon. Not
Miss Solomon. Sorry. I tried to marry you off.
Right.
Oh, my apologies.
On behalf of the Division of Tourism and Transportation and my team, and I just want to say thank you for coming to Tobago. I want to reiterate what the Chief Administrator had said earlier, and I trust that this session really went well. It's a learning experience, and we take your comments. Many of your members gave us good suggestions. We appreciate that, and we are going to work on them. Thank you.
So we'd like to invite the members, the Division of Agriculture, and also, again, I see, yes, Mr. Sandy. I know Mr. Sandy needs some rest, but, yeah, but 5 minutes? Yeah. Well, let's just take 5 minutes then. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna take a recess of 5 minutes. Yeah. Sorry? Yeah. So we suspend this, huh? Good afternoon, everyone. We are resuming our session, which we hope to conclude by probably 1:15 for the latest. Yes? So we don't have much time to waste anymore. Could you please introduce yourselves? You know who we are. I guess you're always sitting in the back. So.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Shaw. I'm the Agro-Investment Specialist attached to the Division of Agriculture, Marine Affairs, Marketing, and the Environment.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nevlin Renwick, and I'm the Administrator of this division.
Good afternoon. I am Carl Murray, Agricultural Officer 2, Department of Agriculture.
Good afternoon. I'm Ruby Warner, Technical Officer, Agriculture.
Good afternoon. My name is Abdallah Chatban. I'm the Specialist Engineer attached with the PIU of the Division of Agriculture.
Welcome and thank you very much. As you know, we just have hopefully a few questions for you all, continuing from this morning's session. The first question, Mr. Smith would like to raise with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you. In your submission, again, very good submission with regards to the data and information for agriculture. You indicated that there are 1,000 farmers registered in Tobago and 5,020 persons employed in the agriculture sector. Sometimes we go into a little more depth with regards to a breakdown, but do the farmers export their produce? And if so, what countries are the main buyers of the product, and what product is it the main product is sold, which vegetable or fruit or whatever it may be sold? And what are the main agriculture commodities produced in Tobago that are supplied in Trinidad? So not, I want it domestic for Trinidad and also internationally, whether it's regional or not. Which farming produce is sold the most, exported the most?
Well, we're answering that.
Mr. Murray, the officer will take that question.
In terms of the output of Tobago over the last several years, Tobago mainly has not been able to actually attract exports out of Tobago into Trinidad or even perhaps the regional market. The focus has been on food security, supplying at least to supply the various residents of Tobago as well as tourists as far as the hotel and tourism sector is concerned. So the main products that are coming out of Tobago in the form of crops mainly will be in the areas of vegetables. The food crop section will be the staples, the sweet potato, the cassava, and particularly in the livestock. We have seen tremendous increase in terms of support, and in fact we can actually boast and say that we have a very thriving trade with regard to the output in terms of livestock from Tobago going to Trinidad. Our data indicates that more than 5 years running, we have exported, if you want to call that, more than 5,000 just sheep alone, plus goats, plus a lot of other livestock to Trinidad. And that is a thriving trade, but it's just basically what we call on the hoof. It's not in any form of value added. And basically, we are trying as much as possible to expand and look beyond Tobago, but right now, the emphasis has been on local food and nutrition security.
Mr. Renwick, it was remiss of me to ask you if you had an opening remark to make, so please do so if you wish now.
Good afternoon again. Well, whenever you mention agriculture and you also mention challenging economic times, everybody always look at agriculture to find the answers. And in our role in dealing with these economic times is that we are pleased that because of the times that we're in, there's a renewed focus on being placed on agriculture. And at this time, we are thankful for the opportunity for agriculture to step up and provide revenue and contribute to GDP. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. De Freitas?
Yes, welcome again. The question that I have is on page 10, item 6 of your submission. Identifies certain value-added products which can be derived from agriculture, produced namely bacon and sausages, herbal tea, cassava and plantain chips, and pudding. My question is, have any action been taken by the Division for Agriculture to facilitate the development of these value-added products?
Yes, we have taken many decisions concerning value-added products, and my colleague here would provide the answer.
Over the years, the Agricultural Division would have taken a number of initiatives to look at the value-added aspect of the primary commodities that we produce. We have developed successful labels such as the Taste of Tobago label that does a lot of cured meats, fruits, and processing of fruits. We have also looked at the other initiatives that would help to develop the value-added part of production. And as we had identified these areas here, we have been looking through the, well, first of all, let me just add this. The division would have gone through the process of creating its strategic plan for the period, I think, 2015 on to forgive me the end of the point. But the plan is there, and we would have developed an area called the Eco-Foods label, which is supposed to look at the value-added process for primary products. We're looking at private-public partnerships as an area for us to focus on in developing that. And I know the colleagues from agriculture could speak more to some of the projects that we have looked at, like the Agro Park, which would look to pull some estates that we have not in production, such as Friendship, to help to build that part of the sector. So yes, we have initiatives. We have initiatives in the past, and we're currently continuing to work on those initiatives. Thank you.
Mr. Solomon.
Through the chair, I was wondering, the world stage now is very much on ecotourism, and I was wondering if there were any agro-tourism products that the THA was focusing on that could help with tourism and agriculture simultaneously.
And sometimes when we engage in the agro-tourism talk, sometimes we are careful because sometimes it gets thrown into the ecotourism talk, and that's sometimes a separate jurisdiction. But over the years, we have been trying as much as possible, and we are now presently engaged in trying to see what initiatives that we can bring towards the agro-tourism sector, trying to collaborate with the Division of Tourism in identifying perhaps what is the agro-tourism product that we perhaps should be engaged in terms of attracting tourism. At the local side, we have formed alliances with many of our farming entities, certainly giving support and facilitating their involvement with the tourism sector. As far as the agro-tourism product is concerned, I know presently the division is contemplating the establishment of a wildlife park, certainly looking at drawing tourists certainly into Trinidad and more so Tobago, looking at the concept of nature tourism, ecotourism, wildlife tourism, taking into the whole aspect of being able to capitalize on that. As well, there has been some initiatives in the past as well, looking at integrating one or two of our agricultural operations, which were more or less derived from old estates, and seeing how we can integrate that into a tourism product where persons can come from abroad and be part of, which is the novelty now in agro-tourism, of being part of an estate-type life and involving in some of the activities. Apart from the division, we do have some private investors and interests in Tobago who have already started that. For example, I believe it's there's a particular individual who has a cocoa plantation, and right now he's engaging in that, where tours are made available. They can come and be part of that experience. So there are some plans ahead, but I think we are still a long way, but still we believe that we are making the right in terms of approach or step towards defining the product and as well working towards implementing it on the ground.
Ms. Ramona Ramdial.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can you tell me how soon before your packaging facility at Lambo Show Park is opened?
Well, I'm proud to say that we opened it yesterday. It's a state-of-the-art facility, and we are very proud that we have this facility that is going to assist our farmers, agro-processors in branding and getting and in quality, having things cleaned using phytosanitary standards and stuff like that. Thank you.
Ms. Primus.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. With regards to the Division of Agriculture, on page 21 of your submissions, you did indicate certain plans for expanding the agricultural production in Tobago. And I'm very much interested in you, either yourself, Ms. Renwick, or any other of the officers with you, to expand on that, because I recall one of my lecturers of many, many years ago, Mr. Jack from Tobago, always told us that Tobago was once the food basket of Trinidad, and that is no longer the case. As a matter of fact, Tobago is not a food basket for Tobago anymore, and where the information is that there is an 80% dependence on foreign products. So that I would like you to expand on what are some of the division's plans for expanding the agricultural production, one. And two, with regards to the Tobago hotel industry, what are the main agricultural commodities supplied to the local hospitality sector? And three, what measures, if any, have been identified to put in place to reduce the reliance on foreign goods? And lastly, 4 questions, lastly, is the, well, I did not want to ask the question come 3 times so that I thought you all were writing down the question. But Mr. Chairman, I did not want to come back 4 times to speak. So question number 1, what are the division plans for expanding the agricultural production? And how dependent is Tobago Hotels and Hospitality Enterprise on foreign produce? And what measures, if any, you all are aware of to reduce that dependence? And what are the main agricultural commodities supplied to the local hospitality industry? And finally, whether or not there is any thought of perhaps utilizing CPEP within the agricultural program.
Let me first of all address the whole issue of expansion and expanding the agriculture sector, and in some way tying that in with your third question. The Department of Agriculture has recognized that certainly if we are going to be a major player in contributing to increased GDP and reducing our reliance on foreign imports, that we are going to have to expand our areas of production. So within recent times, we have undertaken activities looking at the lands that are under our purview and seeing how best we can bring lands that have been lying fallow and lands that have been lying idle within production. And therefore, we have identified, in the first instance, in areas that are under the purview of the department, occupied by stations and surrounding stations, at least in the initial instance of about 45 hectares, which we plan to have established with a variety of different produce, ranging particularly from food crops, including rehabilitation and conservation of our cocoa genetic resource, even perhaps some coconut rehabilitation and inroads into the development of the coconut industry. So we have, in first instance, targeted at least initial 45 hectares in those areas in which we plan to establish a variety of food crops, tree crops, and orchards. Secondly, we have also, and we are anticipating the distribution of lands at the acquired Friendship Estate, which we estimate again to be approximately 45 hectares. We are looking at, in the instance, once we are able to access these lands, to look at a 3-pronged approach towards expanding the sector and expanding agricultural production. One, we are looking at establishing in that area crops with export potential. We have been approached by members of the Exporters Association of Trinidad with the possibility of agricultural activity and production of certain commodities which already have a demand in the international market. Given the fact that we are an island that has an air bridge, an international air bridge and freight system where we have a lot of international flights coming in and leaving every time empty, and the cheaper freight costs that it will cost from Tobago, especially to European markets as compared with Trinidad. And so we would have identified, exporters would have discussed with us the possibilities of looking at crops that already have an established market and established demand, such as papaya, hot peppers, which continue to rate very highly. And not only looking at that from the perspective of export potential with the international market in mind, but also looking at intra-regional trade. Trinidad and Tobago has a very strong and vibrant trade protocol with Grenada and Barbados, and we are hoping that as soon as we can step up to the requirements of having certified farms and production areas that meet their demands, that we'll be able to also have that. Our reason for also exploring export potential crops, not only does it help in reducing in terms of allowing us to have foreign exchange earning, but it also allows us to deal with an issue in Tobago where we have farmers, and although they are producing on small acreages, the potential is still a lot to also cause glut in the Tobago market. We have a very small market, and we have a lot of competing farmers. At the end of the day, what we are trying to do, if you have farmers now, therefore not competing, but working with each other as what we call cluster groups, that they will be able to complement and be able to bring synergy to the production and the productive activity. We are also contemplating embarking upon agro-parks development, a model that we would have looked at when visiting Jamaica some time ago. And it's an area that we are hoping to attract significant private-public partnership, where we are making available lands that can be used intensively by public investors in terms of developing agriculture in Tobago. We have learned and we have understood over the years that many of the significant, unfortunately, strides that we have made in the agriculture sector sometimes have not come from farmers, but also they have come from business people who are just pure, businessmen at the end of the day. And that's something that we hope that we can explore. So we are looking at the private partnership example, and we are not looking at it only in the area of crops, perhaps as well as livestock, looking at the vibrant trade that we have. And we are hoping that we can align ourselves with the tourism sector in developing the eco-foods label, as my colleague said earlier ago. Long now we have established and accepted that foods from Tobago are viewed as, much safer and stuff like that, and we are hoping that we can use that eco-food label contiguous with the Comprehensive Economic Development Plan for Tobago strategic priority area, which focuses on branding Tobago, that we can all be a part of that whole concept of branding Tobago with the eco-food label, looking at exploring niche markets internationally with our eco-food labels, looking at the products that we can derive from that. So those are some of the areas that we are hoping to bring some sort of expansion into the sector. But coupling that as well with what is necessary, which is also improving productivity in the areas themselves. We have a lot of farms in Tobago, and many small farms, in fact, that are not really productive, and it will also look at improving productivity, such as employing technologies, innovative means, labor-saving equipment and stuff like that, to make Tobago production a little more competitive with the Trinidad side of it. With respect to the tourism sector, in terms of the hospitality sector and the sort of foods that we have been supplying to them, in fact, probably start on the demand side. There are still some challenges with the local hotels and restaurants in terms of the menus and in terms of what they offer to their international arrivals and stuff like that. And we are hoping through initiatives that we have upcoming that we can partner with some of these hotels in trying to get them to introduce and have part of their menu a lot of local produce grown in Tobago, as well, synonymous with the eco-food label. What we have done over time is, rather than be directly involved, as a department, we have facilitated a closer relationship between farmers in Tobago and many of these hotels. For example, years ago, the Magdalena, Cocoa Reef, some of these major hotels, what they have approached us saying, we won't produce from Tobago, but we don't want to deal with all of these farmers at one time, individual farmers. What we have done is facilitated an interface between what we have now in Tobago, which is the Tobago Agricultural Cooperative, which is a part of the Tobago Agriculture Society, wholly run by farmers. And what we have done is facilitated them over time. So they now have had a very strong, and I think it's growing and thriving relationship in supplying hotels with many produce, especially we are talking about in areas of vegetable and food crops, and also in local meats. You have a demand growing especially for local meats. We unfortunately have not been able to get farmers to go into the value added and high price type of value added that you can get from the various cuts of meat, but we have certainly had them engaged in that sort of relationship. And finally to say, I think that in terms of what can we do to stimulate the hotel sector and the hotel sector, giving support to the local agriculture sector, and certainly it is as much as possible to get them to supporting the national drive towards having more local foods. Certainly part of our plan is to have more chefs and more of the persons in the hotels who are preparing to experiment, to work with, to try the local produce, to have at least certain local producers as part of a daily menu, if it's not once, at least twice a week, that you can have, whether it's local goat, whether you want to have pork or whatever you want to have, but it must be of a local origin, and try to at least build support for the sector in these areas. I know you threw 4 questions. I hope I would have probably been able to. Or the CPEP, I don't know if any of my colleagues would want to comment on CPEP.
But Mr. Murray, your response has been very, very comprehensive. I am not sure if there is anything else any member here can ask you again. I mean, you were very fluent, so you seem to be an officer on top of your game, which is quite commendable. All right, and we thank you for that. But I don't know, but my colleague here, Ramona Ramdiel, she may have something else, not on agriculture, to ask you. But, but please.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Murray, again, thank you very much for that comprehensive overview. We all know at this point in time that the agri sector is a very viable sector. We also know that in Trinidad and Tobago, we have challenges with our young people and getting them into viable sectors, and of course, in recent times with employment. What are you doing as a unit to encourage young people into the agricultural sector and into agribusiness? What are you doing? Or how are you encouraging them? What are the incentives that you are putting out there to encourage them into this sector?
The emergence of the YAPA program, the Youth Apprenticeship Program in Agriculture over the years, is something that the THA and the Department of Agriculture would have adopted and in its own way developed a program to attract young people into agriculture. And we would have been, I think now it's about the 10th cycle that we would have been in. We would have had initial enrollments of over about 220 persons, with about 50 to 60% of them eventually graduating. As well, so that we have the YAPA program that is running, which we continue to attract. However, over the years, we have seen a little decline because YAPA is competing with a lot of these other social programs, and the young people will tell you, quite frankly, at the end of the day, are going where they had the highest stipend. I mean, that's the response. So it has been a challenge, and we are constantly reviewing the YAPA program to see how we can make it more attractive. As well, we have seen, growing interest in terms of applications under the National Incentives Program, which I think is very commendable, that have now included an area for incentives for new youth in agriculture, supported by, obviously, a wider and broader policy of the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries. And we have seen persons engaging and applying for incentives across the crop and livestock sector. And certainly, I think what is also heartening is that you also have young professionals, persons coming out of EKF and stuff like that, who are utilizing this facility, which allows for startup capital in terms of developing. However, what we need to do is to understand how can we get perhaps those who are not of the literacy levels really involved in agriculture, and that continues to be a defining situation in Tobago. You continue to have the loss of persons. More than Tobago continues to have a farming population that is about 55 years, which is the average age of the farmer based on the last agriculture census. And what we have done in our new strategic plan, which was recently done, is introduce a whole new chapter and area that deals with innovativeness and youth involvement in agriculture. Not very much different to what is in the National Action Plan, Food Production Plan of the Ministry, of getting young people involved. And what we are planning to do actually is looking at new technologies and ways that will draw the interest of young persons, given the technology component, given the labor-saving component, given the component that links ICT with agriculture, and how as young people that would more attract them to the business part of it. I think perhaps you focus on the business, you focus on the technology, and then the other part, which is the agriculture part, will form the necessary foundation for it. So those are the areas that we have been trying to stimulate young persons in getting into agriculture and even continue to grow as agro-entrepreneurs.
Thank you very much again.
I would also like to add that at present we are completing three greenhouses in Goldsboro. It's a herbs project where we're doing all different types of herbs. We're hoping to export eventually, and that project is going to be run by YAPA students, YAPA graduates from the Kendall Farm School.
Thank you. You all may be familiar certainly with a fraternity by the name of Goldsboro Farming Community Fraternity. Is that fraternity that is well known to you all? Yeah? They had highlighted that they were having some problems in their agriculture production activities, and some of the issues they had were poor access roads. They said lack of security of tenure of lands, which made it difficult for them to access loans from the Agriculture Development Bank. Are these problems still occurring? Is that a general problem in the agriculture sector in Tobago at this time?
Yes, good day again. One of the things I know is taking place currently, there's an occupancy survey being done by the Department of Land Management. This is to make sure that they have the correct outline for the plots for all the farmers there. I was told that that exercise should be finished within 1 month. So if farmers have been engaged, and that is part of the process to regularize them for their plots. And that should assist in their troubles from accessing loans. With respect to access roads, I personally can say we've just completed 2 at the area, and in collaboration with the Division of Infrastructure, they're actually getting an asphalt surface in the estate as we speak. There are some other challenges they have with respect to things like irrigation, but we have programs that we're putting in place to deal with that. Also, one of the things we've done, we've heard their cries, and we continue to work with them. We have 2 excavators that we have deployed in the estate that does terracing for them, because some of the areas are predominantly hilly inside there. So they do have challenges working with the terrain, but we've actually provided them with a lot of resources now. We have supervision inside there, and that is actually taking place as we speak as well.
Thank you.
Sure. Excuse me, Chair. I just wanted to point out in respect to the same Goldsboro Farmers Association and the whole concern about security of tenure. They are not alone in terms of farmers, in terms of their concerns in Tobago. I guess security of tenure is rated probably as the #1 concern among farmers in Tobago.
Sure.
However, the security of tenure is related to access to credit and finance. And in the response that we would have submitted, and this was provided by the Agriculture Development Bank in Tobago, it indicated something that is quite significant, that the bank now has undertaken a facility whereby now there's a tenancy waiver. And so therefore, if farmers are occupying areas, first of all, that are government state land, once they're provided with letters of comfort to say that they have been occupying that, which I know has been happening, the bank will accept this as collateral. Farmers who are on private lands and they also have a problem with security of tenure, the tenancy waiver also holds once they have been occupying it for a certain period and are therefore unmolested for that time. So I think the bank has taken significant steps, and I think it is quite commendable of the Agriculture Development Bank in Tobago. They have taken significant steps in introducing the tenancy waiver. And the response, as far as I'm aware of, they're saying now the amount of persons applying for loans have almost doubled since that happened just about 1 or 2 months ago. So I think that will help to also address issues of tenure and access to finance.
Yeah, anybody? No? Can you tell us, based on what you have said, what would be some of the most pressing or challenging conditions you face in executing your mandate or achieving your aspirations in your division?
Perhaps we can start from the human resource capital that we presently have. I think presently we over the last couple of years, we have suffered a severe attrition of staff, and untimely replacement from the Service Commission has been a problem. So one of the major problems we are having now is that we do not have a lot of qualified staff who have been replaced to actually effectively man stations, man projects, and therefore that human resource requirement is critical for us right now. I think we are operating vastly under par given that lack of human resource requirement. We have, because compared with Trinidad, in Tobago you don't have a lot of persons at the levels of specialists. We have had several specialist positions created through a rationalization process that took place, I think, since 2007, 2008. To date, none of these positions have been filled. I think that the last we knew that the Chief Personnel Officer had not as well as yet classified the positions, which is quite ironical because many of these positions exist in the Ministry of Agriculture. Positions as agricultural engineer, agronomist, entomologist, pathologist, these are all positions that are on the books, the return of personnel of the ministry, and therefore they have a classification. But to date, we have not had these positions classified, and as a result, we have not had them filled. And as we said, even the lower level staff, critical extension. In 2014, we would have, after about more than 10 years, had our lowest level staff in terms of, and just only about 1/3 of the vacancies full. And if it wasn't for the intervention of the Tobago House of Assembly in terms of recruiting persons on contract, we would not have had lower level staff. So it is critical. We have not had that critical mass for the last probably 10 years plus to really effectively carry out our mandate. And financing has continued to be an issue. I think agriculture, it is quite evident, not only in the national budget, but as well it trickles down to the Tobago scenario as well. You don't get the necessary type of the funding that you need, to actually implement many of the projects. Therefore, the division finds itself every year reprioritizing and significantly cutting back on the number of projects that we can effectively implement. Projects, and in terms of finances, has to be consolidated into one to approach and to implement one project or two projects here and there, so that as far as productive capacity is concerned within the division and within the sector, it has seriously been lagging simply because of inadequate funding over the years. We are hoping to move towards a situation very soon, coming out of our strategic plan, that we will have a defining agricultural policy and framework that will form the benchmark and form the necessary support that we need to move forward with many of the programs. But critical within as a division, those are the areas that we think that we seriously are right now being affected by.
Chairman, permit me. Mr. Murray, you see, I want to borrow the chairman's word. You are on top of the game. You're in full command of the environment you're in, and I commend you for that. But I'm a bit puzzled, and it has to do with the classification of positions. Is it that you're saying that there are more contract positions than permanent positions on the establishment? Is that what you're saying?
No. What we are saying is that in certain circumstances where we have had a dearth of vacancies being filled, in some instances the THA was able to supplement through contract positions, but certainly we do have quite a number of public service positions versus contract.
How many public service positions on the establishment? Those would be permanent and pensionable positions.
That's right.
How many exist on the establishment?
I cannot say offhand, but I can speak to the question of, as I referred earlier to, for example, agricultural assistant ones, which are the lowest position in terms of qualified technical position in the department. On the establishment, we have, I think it's about 30 positions. in 2000, I said in 2000, and I believe in 2014 or 15. 2015, after more than 10 years, I think we had maybe about 14 of those positions filled after about 10 years. Many of the positions have now been dormant and therefore will need to be reactivated through cabinet.
Is it the word dormant or suppressed?
Well, many of them have
No,
been...
because it's generally well known over the years certain public service positions have been suppressed for various reasons. But is it a case that you're at a point now where these positions are required to unsuppress these positions and to have persons appointed to those positions?
Well, I don't know if I want to use the word suppress, but the case is that I think that greater focus has to be given to Tobago in terms of filling of these positions, and particularly at the specialist level. Knowing fully well that in Tobago, for example, and the reason why I seem to be on top of my game is because at my level, it is unheard of, for example, at a meeting like this in Trinidad, that you will have an agricultural officer too.
That's why I made the statement, Mr. Murray.
Yeah, because in Tobago, for example, the organizational structure, you have officers, for example, which has been all of our experience over the years, someone at the level of an agricultural officer one, perhaps carrying out duties and being more on with duties and stuff at the level of probably someone of a director level, because we have more to carry on our shoulders.
But Chair, can I just come in here and support Mr. Murray? In 2007, an assessment was done of the Tobago House of Assembly establishment, and Cabinet created a number of positions, specialist positions for the Division of Agriculture. Since 2007, the CPO are awaiting classification. And as Mr. Murray indicated, some of these positions exist in Trinidad. So we don't understand why it's taking so long for them to be classified if they exist in Trinidad. And some of these posts are like agronomists and so on. So we have a number of specialized technical and professional positions that are not being filled because they are awaiting classification at the CPO since 2007. We're in 2016 now.
Well, Mr. Sandy, if it's any comfort, your complaint is not a loop. If that is any comfort, there is a problem at the level of the CPO's department in terms of a brain drain through attrition, through retirement, and what have you.
Well, I think, just a comment coming in from social media about the state of the Scarborough's market. Understanding the state of the Scarborough market is in an atrocious condition. Is that in fact so? And if so, what is being done to rectify that?
All right. The comment has virtue. The roof is in a deplorable state. The internals, we've assessed the whole market. We've rolled out to the public our intentions to move forward with the project. It would start with a relocation exercise because it can't be inside there when we're doing anything inside there. We have everything in place for the relocation exercise, but there's one little aspect that we think may add value to the operation, which is site closest to the market. It has been one of the recommendations of the market vendors, and we're seeing a little green light where we may be able to pursue that. In either case, there is a location that we are prepared to move to if that doesn't materialize in Shaw Park. Up to this morning, I've been in contact with EID Cut, which is the project managers entrusted with the task of carrying out, bringing the project to completion for the THA. They've even done all the geotechnical surveys already. The designs are practically complete. They're entering into the tender phase. We've had, because of the economic situation, the project have moved through several different tiers of downscaling. Initially was upwards of 40 million, then it dropped to 25.9. Right now we are down to 15.9. I think that is where we have frozen it. That would allow us to do the roof, cold storage facilities, take care of the dilapidated shacks outside, refuge storage, circulation issues. Air conditioning. It requires a giant overhaul. But we are working on it, and we expect that as soon as we can relocate the market vendors, we will be able to complete the project in 8 months.
I know you said assuming this is months, weeks, or
My best bet is that the relocation exercise could be completed within 2 months.
2 months. Okay, so can we hold you to that?
Huh?
Can we hold you to that?
If all the circumstances are present now remain the same, yes.
All things being equal.
All things
You
being
sound like an
equal.
economist. Okay. I think your responses certainly without underscoring any other contributor. Mr. Murray's wealth of knowledge and his articulation of the issues that were raised and his comprehensive answers sure will have enlightened all who were listening and all who are in a position to do something, to be motivated to do something and assist in this apparent grave situation that you all seem to be doing human service to make it a better division. Right? So for that, the committee commends you. We look forward to your continued cooperation, and in so doing that you'll be of a greater assistance to the public at large. I think we have exhausted what we could have asked you. I think you have taken the lead on us. You have really covered your grounds well. And I will invite Mr. Ray Sandy at this point in time to make any closing comments you would like to leave with us before we bring this event to a close.
Madam Chair, on behalf of the Tobago House of Assembly, let me again say thanks for having this session so that the officers can be exposed to the inquiry from the Joint Select Committee. And I also want to thank the officers here. And let me also point to Mr. Murray's exceptional performance today, if I want to call it a performance. And I really want to thank the officers for their support. We have done quite a bit of work since the initial correspondence came from Parliament. We have met, we have strategized, we have attempted to answer the questions fully. And I really want to thank the officers for their support. And again, let me thank you for coming to Tobago. You could have easily summoned us to come to Port of Spain, but we really like the idea of you coming to Tobago and coming on the ground here so that the Tobago constituency can have an input, so to speak. Again, thank you very much, and thanks to the officers for their support.
Thank you very much for your words. Well, I would also like, on behalf of the committee here, to thank you, the entire Tobago House of Assembly for participating in this historical event. Hopefully it will not be the first and the last. We'd like to pay special thanks to the Clerk of the Assembly and her team from the Assembly Legislature for their tremendous assistance in making the necessary logistical arrangements to convene this meeting. I know it had its challenges because it being the first, but I believe they were all dealt with reasonably well. So we all feel very grateful for your efforts and appreciate it very much. The facility manager and other members of staff at the financial complex, we also thank you very much. To the staff of the Office of Parliament, again, for their yeoman service continually, we say thank you. Members of the media, for your coverage of this. Radio Tambourine, Radio, I think, Channel 5, this morning they had an interview with me, and the viewing and listening audience, for which this hopefully will have been of a major benefit. The people of Tobago, I thank you for coming out in your large numbers to participate and make this a true public hearing. And we welcome this, and whatever positive things that we, in the other aspect of our country in Trinidad and Tobago, can take from this, I hope we will be taking it this time. Again, thank you very much. I would like to bring this session to an adjournment. Thank you again.